So my goal is to get this message out to Main Street mom and pops, and not just this stuff reserved for us weirdos. A good friend of mine used to say, we're the island of misfit toys. The bunch of us that we're just investor types and can't work a W-2 job if we had to. We just need to be able to invest and think of all the ideas. Well, the time for this information to get out to Main Street and not in these just back dark rooms is now. Welcome to Property and Paper Live. This is July 2025, and we have very interesting times that we're living through. And every day, just again, yesterday, I saw a headline that says like 50% of sellers are giving up and just pulling their properties off the market. And someone I was talking to a couple days ago said, "Oh, I think I'm going to put my house on the market." This is up in South Lake Tahoe. And she called her realtor, and her realtor told her, "Don't even bother. We have so many properties sitting on the market and buyers are just not making offers." And so she goes, "Oh, I guess I can't sell my property right now, even though I really want to move to Oregon and be with or I think it was Montana, be with my grandkids, my kids and my grandkids." It's like, "Oh, you mean you can't sell?" No, that just means you're not willing to drop the price or offer terms. Okay, so I'm your host of Property and Paper Live, Dawn Rickabaugh. My website is notequeen.com, and my whole world revolves around seller financing and the discounted market for notes. And so once you understand that piece, how to create a note and then how to get cash out of that note, there are so many solutions that we can bring to the marketplace. But people are just like, "Oh, I can't get top dollar for cash or bank loan. I guess I can't sell." Well, so 50% of those people, yes, maybe they are going to pull off the market because they're really not motivated. They don't really need to sell, right? But what about the 50% that are staying on there and biting their nails going, "Oh man, another price reduction, and now they're getting stale on the market." They're going to have to figure out a solution. So these are people who are going to start dropping prices. And once they do, like we're seeing in a lot of areas of Florida in particular, once one neighbor goes, I don't care, I got to get out," then the price drops. And then that just starts it, right? So if you actually know you have to get out of a property and it's not already too late, don't be silly and just, well, Zillow says, the comps say this, that I should get this. Drop the price or consider offering terms. And for me, in the market that's evolving, where I don't know if it's going to go up, down, sideways, in various markets, of course, everything is local. Some places crashing, other places still going up. Will there be a pullback, short term, long term? Will asset prices just going up and up and up if the monetary policy shifts and other things? So I spend a lot of hours listening to very smart people, and you get just wow. Nobody really knows how to call it, really. Everyone's doing the best they can. So I don't know, my crystal ball's not better than anybody else's. But what I like to do is position myself to be prepared for whatever the market is. And when we're not stuck with Wall Street solutions, when we can go to Main Street and create financial solutions just amongst ourselves without originating a new bank loan and still work in liquidity, cash we need to make the next step. This market was made for me, right? It's almost like I've been waiting my whole life to mature, to be ready at this time for this market that we have now, because there's just not the awareness. It's been such a bull run and such a, institutional lending dominated space for so long now. except for in certain states where they do a lot of owner financing and land contracts and notes and deeds of trust and such quite regularly. Most people don't even know. So case in point, I was talking to a realtor who just booked a consultation, and they have several reasons. They have their own portfolio of properties, one commercial, maybe some residential, that they want to convert and maybe carry some paper on, and they want to know to do that. But then she's a realtor, longtime realtor, and in her brokerage, apparently there's a lot of investor agents. So, it was just eye-opening to me, because it's just like when I worked in the ER as a nurse. In the medical industry, you get all of this lingo that's really clear to you and the people you work with, but it sounds like Greek to everybody else when you go home. So I've kind of forgotten that it's so far removed, and that it seems so obscure and hard to access or to understand. And it's like, oh, here's how we do real estate. And then, oh, seller financing, we have to abandon everything we know there. And what are all the forms and how do we do it here? And it's like, it's not. So my goal is to get this message out to Main Street mom and pops, and not just this stuff reserved for us weirdos who've been in, studying real. A good friend of mine used to say, we're the island of misfit toys. The bunch of us that were just investor types and can't work a W-2 job if we had to. We just need to be able to invest and think of all the ideas. Well, the time for this information to get out to Main Street and not in these just back dark rooms is now. So that said, let me check Angela. Good morning. I'm glad to have you here, Angel. Shakira, yes, I'm a realtor. Can we please touch on how an agent can set a client up for success to be able to sell the note? Yes, we can do that. Very good. And Sue Ellen says, perhaps their price, but your terms. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the kind thoughts there, Sue Ellen. Yep. You can, a seller, just touching on that, is that think of this person who goes, oh, it's a good time for me to sell my property. It's worth double what I paid for it, and let's get out of Dodge with my cash. Oh, you mean I can't get my price? Well, yes, she can get her price if she's willing to leave any existing loan in place or pay it off. People have different financial situations, but if she's willing to offer terms and they're good enough, then someone will pay her price. And I've said many times before, I can pay double or triple the price of the fair market value of a property if I get good enough terms. That doesn't mean it's a good deal for everyone necessarily, but I'm just making the point that we need to expand our minds and get comfortable with the idea. So I want to start with the realtor conversation, since it was a very fresh conversation in my mind, and since Shakira brought this up today. So you guys all know your forms, right? You can use all your same forms when you're getting ready to submit an offer, right? And in a way, I can't really decide who my main target market should be. And all my marketing coaches and everybody says, you've got to pick one thing. What's your one avatar? And I'm going, well, it's the sellers that need to know that they need to, carry paper, that there's another exit strategy, especially the ones who are going to have a significant capital gains, like the investor types. It's the non-owner occupied, right? Especially those people, but not only those people. And then I go, well, the buyers, here's the real truth. You're always going to reach some sellers who will get this or have known it all along, and it's been their primary retirement strategy. But a lot of sellers don't know that they will offer owner financing until an offer is sitting in front of them. So then that makes me think maybe I really need to be targeting buyers, people who want to buy but feel priced out, feel stuck. Okay, so the jury's out. I don't know what you think, but all the properties I've bought with owner carry, they weren't advertising it that way. I had to ask, I had to present the offer, and then they're like, either it's right away or a couple of weeks or 9 months. In one case, it took me 9 months to convince my landlord that he should sell us the property on terms. I got their cadre of trusted advisors around them, and yeah, it's not actually illegal or anything, right? So, anyhow. Okay, I don't know if I was going to talk about the sellers or the buyers. Okay, in this case, let me go to the realtor that I was speaking with. Oh, yes. She's saying, well, what other forms do I need to use? And I said, you're going to use all your same forms. Okay, what I want you to get from today is that owner financing is a teeny weeny little tweak, different, significant, but procedurally, it's so small of a difference from the normal flow of a real estate transaction that you already do. So if you're representing yourself or a seller or a buyer, it's all the same paperwork plus your seller financing addendum, right? You guys know about your seller financing addendum. It's a couple pages, at least last time I looked. I usually make my own simple 2-page. When I'm just buying for myself, it's a 1 or 2-page contract. I don't get complicated with it because why? Because then people don't trust it. Then there's all these fine print, and it's just like I make my contract when I'm not acting like a realtor or using a real estate agent. It's 1 or 2-page contract. Once, a few times in my life, it's just been like, I didn't know we were going to get a deal, and I pull a piece of paper off somewhere and I just write it. Super simple, right? And then escrow, title company goes and cleans it up and makes their escrow instructions that become the defining documents for the transaction. So your regular purchase and sale agent, your regular purchase and sale agreement, except you're going to put that in the financing piece on that first page, it's going to be the seller is going to carry, right? You have your EMD, then you have the additional, cash at closing, or what the financing is going to be, then the final cash due at closing, and then the total amount at the bottom. And then they're on no matter what state. Well, I'm in Nevada. I've only been in between Nevada and California looking at those forms. But I would assume anywhere in the state, if you're going to pick a seller carryback loan on that offer sheet, there should be a little check mark that says seller financing addendum attached. And if you will read it, it will be very self-explanatory. And so that's it. That is it. Now, then when you get in escrow, so everything is the same, how the transaction works. And if you want like an A to Z checklist and the top 10 note mistakes and some 5 hours of video training and things like that, just for $97, you can go pick up the seller financing mastery course that I have on my site in the shop and just have that for your first few times. A lot of people like having me over the shoulder with them the first time or two that they do it. And they either pay me or they have their clients pay me as a consultant fee, or, I can also do referral fees with licensed people. So there's lots of ways that everyone could get paid and get covered. And we get sellers to sell and buyers to buy, and we keep them. See, right now in some areas, we've got the wheel is stuck. It's rusty. And it's like, it's just not going around, right? So with these mom and pop creative, traditional, a blend of creative and traditional, right? We're creative, but we're not like shooting off at the hip. We're going through title companies. We're having attorneys. We're not trying to hide from anyone. We're not practicing law. We're not doing anything outside of our purview. It's It's just bringing back the memory of the ancestors, if you want to put it that way, because before we were all addicted to Wall Street's easy money. We forget that we used to do these, like carrying paper, selling on terms to your neighbor. I mean, it was just much, much more common. And that's why the note business for decades and decades and decades has been the purchase and sale of seller carry notes. It's only recently, since 2008-9, when the institutional NPN bonanza started, right? Now that train has left the station. Now where the opportunity is position, and I think I was going on a tangent here, where I want to be positioned is, since I don't even care a lot of times the price I pay if I get my terms, I want to buy, if I am going to invest, which I am, but not on a mass scale. I'm just a regular mom and pop person, just like most of you. I want to buy as much owner finance property as I can. That's where the opportunity is, and the positioning in the market, no matter if it goes left, stable, down, sideways, or up. Okay. You can't go wrong with good owner financing terms as the buyer, for sure. And also, I want to buy other people's notes out of these things, and usually the front end partial. That means I will buy even a relatively new note, but I'm not going to buy the whole thing. That would result in, to mitigate risk, the discount would be untenable for the seller. Because if they're going to take that big of a discount on the note right off the bat, they'd have done better to just drop their price and sell for cash, right? So depending on what the situation is, there is no one size fits all. I've had people in the past think that they can get on with me for 1 hour, and I think I can do quite amazing, miraculous things with people in just 1 hour to help them know what they need to do or not do. But they'll have the thing where, Dawn, you could tell me in this 1 hour everything I'll ever need to know about owner financing and the note business. I just give me the little package, the little thing, the widget, just sell me that thing so I will always know what to do. And it's like, that's not how it goes, right? So there are fundamentals, and then there are exceptions, and it takes a lot of years of expensive seminars, mostly managing a portfolio of notes for over 2 decades. You make the mistakes, you get the seminars, you see how the movie plays out. And so you get a feel for when you need to stick to the fundamentals really tightly, and when there are compensating factors that would justify going outside the norm. And then you have people that they'll never need to sell this note. It's simply going in their estate to their kids. And then you have people that they're not sure. They aren't highly liquid. They don't have 6 months of cash in the bank. They might need to sell the note at some point, right? So then those are 2 different types of people, and not one size fits all. Now, the thing I want to point out here, okay, thank you, Shakira, is that there are many competent attorneys, real estate professionals, title companies that can walk you through the mechanics of it, right? Because the only difference, and I think I have like a 2-minute video on YouTube I just put up about it. I can't remember what I have, but anyway, but yeah, it's up there. It's at the most a 5-minute video about seller financing and how it's different, right? The only difference is that on the note and deed of trust in my area, note and deed of trust, or note and mortgage in your area, or land contract, whatever it is, instead of the beneficiary listed in the note and deed of trust documents being an institution like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the beneficiary listed in the note documents and the security instrument is the seller. That's it. There's still a note, there's still a deed of trust, there's still a lender's title policy, hopefully. Even though some people think you don't need to, it's just a good idea, really good idea to get it in case you ever decide to sell the note or your family down the road. And one more thing that's different, for the fire insurance, the hazard insurance, the buyer is still the named insured, just like always, but the loss payee isn't Bank of America or Wells Fargo, it's the seller because they're the lender. Okay, so functionally, we can see that that's not that hard once you get in your mind, and it's not a mystery and you're not intimidated. It's so simple. It's the same as any other transaction, except you're not going to have to do an appraisal unless the buyer wants to pay for one. You don't have to wonder if the loan's going to fund. You can close in 2 to 3 weeks easily if everything else is on board. So the seller can sell quickly and easily for their price, get as much as possible, if depending on the terms that they're willing to offer and the terms the buyer's willing and able to pay, and depending on how much liquidity. So it is not it's not hard to do the mechanics, even though I was reminded recently that I take that for granted, that's very simple. So I apologize in advance for that I haven't made it simpler. But the piece that these attorneys, accountants, title companies, real estate brokers, agents, what they don't know is, well, guess what? I would say I would be surprised if 1% of those people who have helped their client through an owner finance transaction tell them that, by the way, you're just trading one asset for another. You're selling your property, but you're taking a note, paper. Guess what? That's an asset, a non-real estate asset. And guess what? It has value in the secondary market. Like, someone might want to buy that from you. Most sellers who do end up doing seller financing, unless they were in aforementioned dark cigar smoke bar rooms for decades of their life, learning about all these things in investor gatherings, they don't know. It is a total they're totally blindsided and surprised when 4 to 6 weeks after their security instrument, their deed of trust and mortgage, is recorded in public record, they're surprised they start getting postcards and letters saying, we noticed you just carried back a note. You're receiving payments on a property that you sold. Hey, would you like to sell it? We buy notes. Let's talk. Let us give you a quote. It's free. And they go, what? This is a thing? So I am just taking the payments. This is like a real estate annuity, right? I'm just getting payments because I sold the house over on terms. But what it represents is a stream of income, an annuity. An annuity, streams of income can be bought and sold. So this represents a stream of income to an investor who wants to do better than 2 or 4 or 6% in some other thing, or they want their money out of the stock market, or they're diversifying. They want the yields, that are above that, and they're willing to take a little extra risk to get it. So it's not hard for regular people to get, 8, 9, and 10% on their money and above, depending on your level of risk, the type of thing. So that's the way a lot of retirees, through their self-directed accounts, are trying to beat inflation, is making more than just the best they can do on a T-bill or something, right? So they get the postcard, and then they usually will sit down at the internet and start searching. And that's when they find the guys that are spending thousands of dollars on SEO. Saying, we buy notes. And I would say there's probably a really high chance that the people who spent all the money on the postcards gave the deal to the guys spending all the money on SEO. Of course, the game's changing now because of AI, different search things going on. But anyway, and then by the time they're serious about considering selling their note, by that time, it's already, the price someone will pay for it is pretty much already baked in. The note is worth what it's worth because back when they were in the closing, the real estate closing, before they signed it's like, yeah, the baby was born. You can't send it back, right? You can't change the DNA now. But anytime before the closing, you can adjust the terms of the note to be more or less valuable. Right? So the thing that here's the whole point of way back in the day why I started a kind of consulting, and I guess I didn't think about it later till the underwriting concept. I mean, there's underwriting in terms of, proving income, checking their credit score, blah, 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 right? But I'm talking about the kind of underwriting that the terms of the note are such that the note becomes more valuable. You can have $100,000 note that's worth 90,000, or it could be worth 50,000, or it could be worth nothing because of strategic errors and omissions in the way the deal was structured, or the paperwork had missing pieces. And so when I talked to enough of those people that were like, I had no idea. I asked my agent if they knew anyone that could help us with this, and they said no. Now, that was probably 20 years ago. I don't know. It was a long time ago, right? In the earlier days. I think there's a lot more awareness now, and hopefully more and more as I keep blabbing my mouth, and other people do too. There's a lot of people, I think, in the note business that have caught on to this idea. I thought I was the first one way back in the day. I don't know if I was or not, but I noticed there's a lot of people saying, hey, we help structure seller financing transactions, and that's great. And only someone who buys notes is going to be able to do that, because the attorney, all those people, unless they buy notes for their own portfolio, they do not know what the note is going to be worth on the secondary market. And therefore, since they don't know anything about it, they don't even tell their client that has just sold and is now holding a note. Don't even tell them that they're going to be getting letters, that there's some, people will want to buy it, much less, hey, maybe we should think about what's your overall situation? What are your goals? How do we set you and your heirs up for success based on your particular situation? And so that's that's the message I want to get out. We need the real estate market to keep moving around, and we're going to need to get good and ethical and intelligent and informed about, especially if you're a real estate professional and functioning in that capacity, you've got to, there's a high accountability, ethical, moral obligations, and you need to be good at what you're doing. You can't just like wing it. Well, everyone else wings it. Like my broker doesn't even know anything about it. The attorney doesn't even know anything about the secondary market. That doesn't matter. You're responsible for knowing if you're an agent, So good on you for being here and for exploring it so that we can get things done, one mom and pop to another, and keep everybody's nose clean. Now, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like, I'm going to go back to Shakira Sellers, or was it you, Angel? I'm sorry, when I don't hear any feedback, I get in this weird sort of like, am I alone just talking in this room? I don't know. I can't stay on topic. But
I do have a question, Dawn.
yeah, Angel, yeah.
Kind of goes along with what Shakira is asking, her being an agent and how she can help her sellers if this is a potential benefit to them. I'm kind of on the other end because I'm the investor making the offers, and
Right.
I'm working with real estate agents who have no clue.
Right.
So if you have any advice as to how we kind of present to a real estate agent who's maybe had a property that the price has dropped, to really say, hey, I can give you a full price offer if your seller will accept terms. A lot of times they just say, no, they won't do that.
Well, this is where we're going to have a Darwin moment in the real estate profession. Because I don't know, just from my point of view, like, how sad is that? It's not your job. Your job is to submit offers, right? Yes. Your job is to submit offers. And of course, they can sign a written waiver and then gets you out of that moral ethical obligation. But I've seen real estate agents shoot themselves in the foot so many times. The biggest one that was the sexiest one to retell was where 900,000 commercial property on the market, someone was willing to pay full price. It was sitting on the market. They came in with a full price offer, 300,000 down, asking the seller to carry 600,000 for 4 years. Agents wouldn't even present the offer. Now, 5%, 6% on 900,000 is a pretty decent commission. Now, a few weeks later, the property sold all cash for 600,000. But before then, the buyer had come to me in my back baby no queen days and said, can you buy any of this? No. So at the time, I could arrange that. It made sense. And this is even, it's commercial, but it was even pre-Dodd-Frank and all that. But I said, okay, we can buy the note for 400,000. So between your 300 and our 400, the seller can get 700,000, and the realtors get paid on a $900,000 sale. Well, they decided they didn't even present the offer at all because they didn't get it, or they had a buddy who was presenting a $600,000 all cash offer. The seller could have walked away with 700,000, but they walked away with 600,000 because he didn't even know about the other offer, and the agents got paid a commission on 600,000 instead of 900,000. So I don't know. You can't save everyone. So it's going to be a process. But the fact is, when I moved here to Northwest Nevada from Southern California in 2014, I'm starting to talk to people and, like, how do I start playing in this new market here? And the agents all told me nobody does owner financing in this area. Nobody. And I go, oh, okay. Well, over the next few years, I bought and sold many properties without any agents because they're a liability instead of an asset in these situations, sadly. But if you're not, you will stand out in the crowd. And if your broker doesn't, say that you can't be involved in it, that's a big bummer right there. But Angel, so getting back to it, I don't know. You can't get anywhere until you submit an offer, and you can't make realtors do the right thing or the smart thing or the informed thing, and sometimes I'll just do a letter of intent because if I as an investor, I don't want to. If you're doing a realtor thing, that's a big, long bunch of papers all the time. So I'll do a letter of intent. Here's a couple different options. Here's very serious, da, 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 da. Here's what we can give you this price in these terms or this price in these terms. If you're interested, just let me know. And then keep following up. So
can you send that via email, just like a letter of intent, and drop it in an email? Because I'm not an agent, so sometimes I think they shoo me away because I'm not an agent. But I also don't want to put someone going through my partner agent, going through all of that paperwork either, for them to just ignore it.
Yeah, you could, so you don't want to, wear her out, right? So, but yeah, you can have her submit a letter of intent, right? Because then that's easier. And if the agent wants to get paid bad enough, maybe they'll just submit an offer. But mostly agents don't do a good enough interview process in the beginning to even know that much about their own seller situation, which is sad. So, but anyway, back to before I forget, how do you make the seller end up with a note worth holding or selling? Well, it really the foundational concepts of what makes in general, the basics are to make the note most valuable on the secondary market. Well, the collateral itself, right? The location, the value of the collateral, the type of collateral, right? That's going to play a big factor. And if someone has to take it back, what are they going to be able to sell it for? Is this a tough property to sell? Is it zoned weird or anything like that? But anyway, down payment, hard equity. So the more the hard equity the buyer puts down, that is deemed to be a more solid annuity because the value of a note is based on how likely is this payment stream to continue without drama. How stable is this income stream going to be? And the things that make it stable are things where the buyer and the borrower who's paying, they're going to keep paying as agreed. Now, if they put a big down payment, they don't want to lose the property. So their whole world has to fall apart before they're missing the payment. If someone put 5% down, easier to walk away. That's just like a glorified rent deposit, security deposit first last month's, right? If someone puts 20% down, like the conventional, then that borrower is not likely to walk away. Statistical likelihood is, so that's number one. You cannot replace hard equity. So that would be hard cash down payment that ideally, not always, but ideally that the buyer saved. They saved it up and it's their own money that they worked hard to put together. That's different type of money than mom gave it to them, which is okay in some circumstances, right? Or they got assistance or a grant. Money that someone has worked hard to put together, saving their pennies and not going to Starbucks every day. That's different money than someone who won the lottery. And the interest rate that is charged, if an investor needs, let's say the person on the other end who's buying the note needs a 10% yield, they need to make 10% on their money to make it worth the risk to hang out and buy this note. If they want 10% and the note is written at 5%, well, that's quite a ways. So there's a bigger discount required for the investor to get their 10% yield. They can't, for a $100,000 note, they might have to only pay 65,000 to get their 10%. If the face rate on the note is 3%, there's a much bigger discount. If the face rate on the note is 9%, there's a much smaller discount. But all of this factors into what area are you in of the country? What's the price point? And can the buyer really afford it? And if you want your price, I'm going to tell you right now, I think I haven't made a big enough point of this. In the old days, and if you internet the search or go into GPT chat, all the wisdom you'll see. Okay, if you're going to carry paper, you should charge 2 to 3 points above what the banks are charging. Right? Because you should get a premium for being the bank for someone who can't get a bank loan. Well, that's not going to work in this market. Back when bank rates were 3 and 4%, yeah, that worked because you can charge 5 or 6% and someone can still afford to get you your price and make the payments. But now that we have high prices and high interest rates, you have to decide what you want. Do you want your price? or do you want your interest rate? Now, if the price point of the property is low, like 150,000 or less, you can get both. You can get your price and your rate. Because two people working a minimum wage job can afford 9-10%, on a $120,000 house. Okay, so when you go to sell that note, there's not that much of a discount. There may be other factors based on, is the collateral. Some people don't want collateral that's not worth at least 250, right? So there's always give and take everywhere. So, but if, let's say this lady in Southlake, she wants her 750 for her property. She bought it for 3 something, and now it's worth 750. It's only worth what someone's going to buy. So, but anyway, let's say she wanted it. Well, now you have to offer sellers who want their price have to offer less than the banks are asking sometimes. And usually it's still a win-win, because if you take all cash, where are you going to make 5% on your money secured by something you know? And if you can have a better answer, then do it. And you don't have big capital gains, fine. But you just have to decide. So generally, I don't pay more than 5% when I'm buying. That's the most I pay. That is a little bit of a lie, because I just did one at 6%. It was on land, and I really wanted it because it's right here close. So I did do a little white lie right there. But mostly, I have never paid more than 5% when I'm buying residential real estate. It's been anywhere from 3.5 to 5, and there are many people who offer 0% and get it. And I bought notes where the interest rate's 0%. And how could I buy a note with no interest? Well, because I discounted the balance so heavily to get a reasonable return, right? It just means that the seller, but for a lot of people, if the seller is not going to need to sell the note, that note's for keeping, because that's how they got their price. And this is how they're keeping a lot of equity working for them, right? Instead of other alternatives. Not everyone wants to do the stock market. Not everyone wants to do all T-bills or things that are in the banks. I hate leaving my money in the banks. I don't feel safe and cozy with money in the banks. I don't. I like my wealth mostly elsewhere. So I don't know. I think what I'm just trying to describe is that there's nothing there's a wide range of possibilities, and it can be very individual once you get down into this transaction with this property as collateral, with this seller's needs and expectations, with this particular seller's abilities and what they're willing and able to do. And then, is this a long-term thing or short-term? Do we need a little extra cash at the closing table? Like, the buyer's down payment's good, but seller needs an extra 30, 50 grand to pay off a debt, buy a new car, something. Okay, well then right after we create that note, someone like me will come in and buy a few payments to get that extra 30 to 50,000 in cash. Now, keep in mind, that means if I buy the notes at closing, let's say I buy 3 or 4 years worth of the note, that means that the seller doesn't get the payments. So they're getting their cash that they need, but they're not getting the cash flow until I get my payment, unless a partial split payment has been, agreed to. Like, out of a $2,000 payment, I agree to get $1,500, and the seller says, I can be good with $500 a month. That usually means I have to go out longer or discount a little bit more. But there's so many ways to make a deal work when you know the secret sauce, which is the secondary market for notes. The same way that the banks sell off to Fannie and Freddie, there's a private parallel system. And when you have that piece, then even when someone carries, they can walk away with cash, even when they carry, or at the very least, all I really care about is people go in with their eyes wide open. Okay, to get my price, my 750, I'm willing to carry at 4.5% because I'm getting my price. I know that I will take 50 cents on the dollar if I need to go sell my note right now. I want the seller to know that ahead of time, not be in a jam a year from now and be blindsided and crushed and swearing up and down to all the shysters out there in the note business. I want them to know going in, right? So there's nothing wrong. You can do a 0% down, a 0% note interest rate if you want to, but just eyes wide open for how that impacts the value of the note, what someone will pay, the ability to get liquidity, to squeeze money out of that payment stream. Okay, I will grab because I'm in. Hi, I'm stuck at acquisition. Can't seem to get sellers who want to sell to me with owner financing. Tried. Are you still here right now on the call?
Yes, I am.
Oh, hi. Hi, I'm in.
Hi.
Oh, shoot, I haven't talked to you in a bit. Yeah, it's there you are. I see you. Yeah, it's you can't get everyone. It's just starting to fish. And really, depending on the market you're in, it's getting rich, right? Because in the markets where prices are sitting, properties are sitting, the people that don't have to sell, yeah, maybe they're just taking off their market. Maybe next year will be better. Maybe not. But they don't have to sell. But there's going to be some that have to sell. There's pressure and motivation, and the pressure cooker's getting pretty darn tight. Okay, so the fire, it's getting hotter and hotter. There's a pressure cooker, and so we can be positioned as buyers. Now, for sellers, we can like see it and just get ahead of it and like, do I want cash? Do I want cash? Do I want to own or carry this? And if I own or carry, I get my price, I sell quickly and easily, I have the payment stream. If I need cash, I'm not silly. I don't get what the market value is, top dollar. I go, what's likely to get for me to beat the competition out there? Okay, I'm going to drop the price 10, 15% below market. And I'm going to get an escrow, and everyone else can sit there and slide their way down as the market gets weirder and weirder. So if I want to cash, I don't mess around. I price it to sell, or I offer terms. And I already know what the secondary market for the note is because I know this crazy lady named the Note Queen. And we have coffee once in a while. So anyway, but
Can you suggest?
usually, yeah. So it's not going as a like a wholesaler type, an investor, active investor. What we're doing is we're making cash offers. If you start with owner financing, okay, when we don't understand something or we're not quite ready, what do we do? No. Okay. But if you build the rapport on the cash offer and they go, well, that's just, and you get to the cash and they said, that's just a little bit too much. I can't sell for that little. And, it's more like well, shoot. Well, do you have to have all your money at once? Or, yeah, well, what are you going to, just out of curiosity, what are you going to do with the money? If this is an investor property in particular, what are you going to do with the money? And you think you could give me a little time to get you paid? Well, what if I could pay you more? So what's the minimum you need? Oh, well, shoot. Well, what if I could get you more? Would you have to have it all at once? I have, and so it's usually like, dang it, my cash price didn't work. So now can I get the terms, right? So gosh, this deal that I recently did is this vacant land. He wanted a price that didn't make sense to me at all. But I said, gosh. And then it worked out well because he's trying to retire so he can just run around in his RV. So what he would like is cash flow every month and feeling like his money is working at a fair rate. And he went on the internets and he said the lowest that sellers do is 6%. And I'm just like, dang it. Okay, but I didn't have to put much down. Okay, so that's a compensating factor, very low down payment for me. And it's something that I want, and it's 2 miles from my house, if that. But
What do you think? Who should I target for? That was a good suggestion, actually. I like that idea. Start off with a cash offer.
right.
And when they say those numbers don't work, then you start talking about creative financing.
Or like you were doing before, I mean, there's going to be people that will understand and go for the lease option, like you were starting with a few months ago. I don't think that's a dead thing. In fact, since I'm recently relicensed, I was licensed for many years. I was a broker in California for many years, independent broker, but I'm pretty new at getting my license back on. And when soon I'm going to hang it with an independent broker who she also does property management. And so I love small, independent, smart brokers that can do a lot of things because I like people to do things that I'm not good at. I want teammates where they can do things and know things that I don't know. But I like the fact because as much as I don't care if I get a great cash offer on a property, I'll go for that. That's fine. Or if I can turn it to owner financing, that's really, really fine. And if I can get a lease option with a spread, and now my broker knows property management inside and out too. So like, what can we not do? So, but you can never create motivation for someone. They have to have it. And it's just about being consistent enough. And there's lots of free ways to go. But I would, and also you can do direct mail. Some of these things or the paper leads, they get kind of expensive, but they can have a pretty nice return on investment depending on your market and the systems that you have. It's a little more robust. But even having a simple, I think in the beginning, I put up those carrot sites for investors. And one of the silliest things I ever did was shut it down because organically, without me even doing anything, it brought me 3 to 5 deals a year. And then I got in my mind that I could take control of everything. And then I just sort of ruined it all and have to get that SEO going again. But it's not that expensive to have a little investor site, few $100.
I'm also an agent here in Massachusetts.
Right. Oh, well, that's good. So if you can have buyers, you either got to have sellers or do you think it's more likely you have buyers? Because if you can cultivate buyers that have a strong down payment.
Yeah.
So I'm not a buyer agent type person, but if I were to be, I would only work with people who have got like a 20% plus down payment because then it's more easy for me the likelihood of me getting a deal submitted through another agent with everybody's eyeballs on it. And then, yes, actually that happens to be standard conventional underwriting. And so there's less resistance if I'm going to have to deal with agents. Like submitting a 0 down, 0% offer through an agent is like, yeah, you can do it on your own. But I would just say if I was being an agent and I would find those buyers that have 20+% down and they can afford and they can make reasonable payments at least for 5 years. And I would try to ask at least for 5 years before there's a balloon payment. And that comes up pretty darn quick. Tax defaults is great. But really there's a lot of inventory just laying around in plain sight These are people that have been on the market forever, and you're seeing one price reduction after another. Those are the people I would just keep submitting offers to, and or work with a buyer who has a big fat down payment, and you know that they would pass the underwriting test of any standard mortgage broker. I use Madison. There's other people out there. I like Madison Management to get the underwriting and servicing done there. But yeah, the acquisition piece is tough, but tax defaulted things, mailers, pay per lead. Any other suggestions people have out there? What are you doing, Angel? How do you find your leads that you're working with?
So I have inbound. I'm marketing to motivated sellers, and so I have them coming inbound through my website. That's been my focus to build that SEO. But I'm also looking at reaching out to listed to agents that have dropped prices. Like on Facebook Marketplace, or we have systems that we can access that we can get some of that information and know when those price drops are happening. And then for sale by owners as
Sale by owners.
Mhm.
And expireds.
Yes.
And expireds, would people who look like they need to sell, but I know in our area they're like, no, you're the 10th person who's asked if I will carry. No, I won't carry paper. Okay, well then, will you take this price? No. Okay, well, next.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So don't lose heart, because to me we have market. I'm sorry, what?
Boston is a strong market. It's still actually in the seller's advantage. And houses are selling pretty rapidly. Average number of days on the market is like 25.
Yeah, that is a strong market.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's this. So it's just, you may want to look at working a market that's not your local market. I know that has challenges too, but you still have people that there's still, no one said, when I moved here, no one said anyone did owner financing because prices are strong and loans are easy to get. And then why did I buy two personal residences and my Airbnb duplex and, this and that and the other? Why did I buy without banks? Why did I get seller financing? Because I asked, and because it just worked in that situation, right? It doesn't mean I get everything I want. I ask for it far more than I get it. But we're still early in the market shifting, I think. And it may never be, it's all markets are local, right? So I'm just saying that the people who are positioned, this is coming. There may be cracks that are coming. And if you position yourself as an expert, especially if you're an agent, and if you just keep talking the talk and walking the walk and doing the things, or consider virtual real wholesaling or dealing outside of in a market that's more conducive, where I don't know, this seems like there's really pockets that are just going down fast, and a lot of underwater homeowners right now in some areas of the country.
What do you think of targeting tired landlords? I see you have a book, Tired Landlords.
Yeah, I love this idea. Yeah, when I'm marketing, my marketing goes to those people. I want non-owner occupieds, absentee owners that have equity. They own their property a long time. Maybe they have recently had to do an eviction. I target that with my paid marketing dollars for sure. But it's not, it's good when we're when we're spending the time and money, the sweat equity and the dollars our precious dollars, we have to have more than one way to monetize. So if like, we have to know, like, are we going to get a listing? Can we get a commission out of this? Can we get a referral to some other agent? Can we get a cash offer? Can we wholesale this deal? Can we rehab this deal? That's getting a little dicier because rehab costs are insane right now. I'm paying double for everything right now on a rehab I'm doing than I paid 3 years ago on my last one. And I'm like, oh my God. And then owner financing shouldn't be the only way we have to monetize our marketing. So we need to have multiple ways to benefit. And if you're licensed, you can be both. You can be an agent, you can be an investor. You just have to keep your nose clean with all of that, the disclosures that need to happen. But I don't just go after owner financing, because if I do, I don't get it's once you build the rapport, right? If you're on the phone for 30 or 45 or an hour with someone and you've built rapport and they'd like to sell to you and you'd like to buy, but the cash deal just doesn't work, that's when you go to the the things that are in my various books and that I've said on these types of calls before, and that you've probably heard from other YouTubers plenty of times too, so, but anyway, but just keep at it, because it's our time to shine. Those of us that are creative investors and agents, professionals that have our eyes opened, we can clean up if we know what we're doing, because we're going to be able to create solutions that the market just says, guess I'll take my house off the market. Guess I'll just keep reducing the price. I guess agents going, well, I guess I'll pick up a Joe job at the state or something, Yeah, so anyway, I hope that helped. My goal with this was to demystify it. Use your same paperwork that you always use for anything, and then just have the seller financing addendum. Or if you're just me, like using a 1 or 2 page offer letter, all it says is, here's the property, here's the price, here's the escrow, here's the EMD, and then here's what I pay you, this much now and this much per month, and then on the rest then, or whatever. That's it, right? Otherwise,
how do I get the owner financing addendum?
You should have it through your I would be shocked if there's not a seller financing addendum in every division, or association. So that's it. I just want you to not be embarrassed or scared. And if you don't want to go through, like Angel doesn't want to wear out her agent, just letters of intent, 1-page things that says, really interested. Here's 1 or 2 options of what we could do, and see if you can get them to the table to negotiate. And then once you're there, whether it's a potential thing or not. And then that's a time when you're like, maybe someone like Dawn would be really valuable here, because here's where we're stuck. We need this and they need that. But we're so close. How can we can use the note business, what we know about notes and the secondary market for notes. We can use that to help close more transactions. So that is the strategy du jour that we need to put on. This is the time where buying with owner financing in particular is, to me, the most powerful strategy. It's a good positioning for now and down the road, not knowing what's going to happen. And then I want to buy front end partials of other people's notes. So with that, don't hesitate to go visit me at notequeen.com. And you can always sign up for the next one of these. If you're listening on YouTube or podcast or somewhere like that, you can always sign up to be live and ask your own questions at propertyandpaper.com. And until next time, go out there and create financial solutions, just one mom and pop to another. Thank you so much for your time. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.